about a really vexing issue that's unfolding in Haiti. Later on in this morning, Brother Ako Mutota will be joining me on the phone lines. We're going to go behind the scenes to see who are the people there in Haiti and what the whole setup is like. But in the meantime, I want to talk to you a little bit about the kill chain. And as you know, coming out of the, and as I said before, artificial intelligence, anti-intelligence, as you know, is what I call it. But there's a question that we've got to confront, even as we talk about whether we call it artificial intelligence or anti-intelligence, that it's a technical question, it's a moral question, and it is also clinical and hopefully human. First of all, what is a kill chain? We want to spend some time looking at that and what happens when it begins to operate. As it is operating now, we see it operating now in Haiti without conscience. Before we go into the conversation about this, and I'm going to take a few minutes just to talk about this, I want you to listen to a video, watch and listen to a video. And this video is referencing something that came out of the United States, the government itself, the belly of the DOJ. Do we have that ready, Peter? Let's go to that video so you can watch if you're watching online, if you're on YouTube or Facebook or IG or so on. If not, what you can do is continue to listen because you'll still hear the audio. Let's take that video and then I come back to the point we're making earlier. Let's go to that video. Peter is going to bring that up. All right, so we're not getting the audio, Peter. Not quite sure, but we're seeing the video. Hopefully you'll get the audio in a little while. All right, let me know if you're hearing. I'm not hearing here. So let me go on and tell me. All right, so Peter, no audio on the video. But we're seeing the video. It's important. For the audio, not quite sure if you're hearing that. All right, so no audio on my side. What it is, though, is a little bit more about the kill chain. And
here's what makes it terrifying and impressive at the same time. Before this software, military decision makers had to juggle 8.
All right, so if we take it back from the top, since we're just sharing it. All right. Okay, so I'm not sure what's happening, but we heard a bit of it just now, Peter, but not all. And it's still on. So if you're taking from the top, and let's see if we can do this again. In the meantime, the kill chain technology, the kill chain protocol or policy, if you will, it is a military doctrine, and what it includes is really a structured sequence. So it is 2F, 2T, 2F, 2T, EA. So it's find, fix, track, target, and engage. And the A would be assess. So it is find the subject, target their identity, track their movement, target them based on threat, engage with force, and assess what was done. Now, this is being played out in Haiti, but it's being played out on a loop. It is quite different from what we even witnessed in that short moment there in Venezuela. You could see that this is what was used, the kill chain technology from Anthropic, and Anthropic is deeply embedded in Palantir. So let's just not get ourselves confused with how this is going. So in theory, all right, we're ready for the video? All right, let me go back to the video. 6:43, because we're running out of time. But so let's go take the video. I want you to listen to this. I think it's important just to listen to where we are with the technology and what's happening in Haiti. It's critical. It's important for us to have this conversation. We're starting that from this perspective this morning because we saw the very same thing in Gaza. And I'm sure in Somalia, but we're going to have to do the research on Somalia. All right, let's go to the video now, Peter. Thank you so much.
This is Palantir's Maven Smart System, and it's being deployed across the entire U.S. Department of Defense. Here's what makes it terrifying and impressive at the same time. Before this software, military decision makers had to juggle 8 or 9 separate systems just to track, identify, and action a target. Now, it's all fused into one single visualization tool. You can see live aerial maps, multiple data feeds, computer vision detections, all on one screen. A soldier spots a target, right-clicks, and in 3 clicks, it becomes an official detection that moves into a targeting workflow. From there, AI automatically generates a course of action, ranking the best available military assets by speed, fuel, distance, and time to target. The system recommends the top match. The human reviews it, hits approve, and the strike is executed. From detection to approved strike in one system. No switching between platforms. No manual handoffs. The DoD's chief AI officer showed this live on stage. The final clip, a drone strike. Target eliminated. This is what AI-powered warfare looks like in 2025, and Palantir is at the center of it.
AI-powered.
This is Palantir's Maven Smart.
AI-powered warfare. And this is, we're talking about 2025 into 2026. So in theory, the system is designed for control. It is designed for precision and for accountability, because this is what the kill chain is supposed to be. But every decision which is meant to be verified is not necessarily verified. And we're watching how this is being done in Haiti. The bottom line is that what's happening in Haiti has to be a trial. And it's a continuation of a trial that ran in Gaza. And this is my own personal opinion. This is from my analysis, from my reading of the system, of the situation and how this is unfolding. It seems as if the system itself is mutating in Haiti. So what we're now witnessing in places like Haiti is something far more dangerous, not just the ordinary kill chain. We're seeing a continuous loop, a continuous kill loop in Haiti. Drone strikes kill, it's 120 or 140 plus people in Haiti between December and January. I think it's between December and January. If you're looking at a screen, for those who are watching on YouTube and on Facebook, you're seeing some of the stories that we've pulled from the different legacy media outlets like Reuters, and also from Human Rights Watch, from Al Jazeera, from other Western media, because this could not have gone without reporting. Haitian security forces drone attacks kill more than 1,200, including civilians. This is according to Human Rights Watch. So if you go to Human Rights Watch, you'll see that. It's also on the screen we're putting up right now. It's a continuous loop. And the first step is there. The assessment step has disappeared totally. So from our own personal perspective, we're not seeing any investigation, we're not seeing any correction, we're not seeing any pause. The system does not stop to ask what is wrong. This is what's going on in Haiti right now. We're not paying as much attention as we should be, but the situation in Haiti is that they're dropping drones like rain on Haitians, and they're using, from all intents and purposes, the kill chain drone technology. This is artificial intelligence. Find, fix, track, target, engage, and then back to find again and again and again and again, and there's no assessment. This is what we think. So the ethics has gone through the roof. The loop that is being created the mistakes are not being dealt with. The mistakes, in fact, are being repeated, and we're seeing civilian deaths much more than we ever thought that we would. This is phenomenal. It is crazy. It is madness, but it's happening right in front of our eyes. Civilians and children, women, children, they are now becoming data points in Haiti. The system that they're using, the drone technology, it does not seem to learn or to be able to learn ethics. It learns, I don't know, it is learning efficiency. And this is why we say it's a test, because it's in a loop and it's going on and on and on and on. So we must make that distinction. A kill chain is supposed to think, and a kill loop only continues over and over and over again. There's also another layer that we need to pay attention to, which is, this is a little bit more complex. It is what we're not seeing, and that this is state-controlled warfare. It is not entirely automated. The extent to which a state is involved and the extent to which a state has created a hybrid kill chain system is phenomenal, because the state has outsourced this kill chain system, the killing of Haitians with drone technology and artificial intelligence, anti-intelligence, to Blackwater. Now, if we say Blackwater, you understand what we're saying. Of course, they've changed their name, Vector something, and we'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. But it is the same firm, it's Blackwater, that was in Iraq. Remember that whole debacle, that massacre? Blackwater that was in Sudan, in Congo in particular. Remember that? So what we're seeing now is the very same Blackwater, which has morphed, changed its name, in Haiti, running this kill chain technology. For those of you who are watching on our social media platforms, we're showing, Peter is literally just showing images of Haiti, showing you some of the stories coming out of Haiti and just what's happening there on the island right now. It's a hybrid kill chain system. In a hybrid kill chain system, this is where the power to take life is distributed among many, many, many actors. And this is what we're seeing unfolding in Haiti right now. So the Haitian state, because remember they put in a puppet government, so the Haitian state authorizes or is authorizing private contractors, and private contractors like Blackwater, which is now, I need to remember its name now, and I'll come to it in a little while. But they are supplying the technology we have, the logistics, and sometimes the intelligence, the external powers license, which enable or influence a system from a distance. All of that is in place. If you understand what is unfolding in Haiti, you'll understand that this is the very definition of hybrid kill chain is what's happening in Haiti right now. The responsibility is fragmented, so the extent to which who is identifying the target, who is confirming the target, and who makes the final decision, who is accountable when the wrong persons die. We do not have that information. What we know, though, that Blackwater, which is Vectors, I'm going to give you the right name. I have to do that. In other words, a name that it's calling itself right now, but that the company is, that there's a hybrid system there. And we are not sure, right, who is doing what. And that's just the bottom line. The danger, though, is palpable in Haiti, because this is a whole different kind of warfare. They're just dropping bombs left, right, and center. Let me just look at something here to give you some information about it's a kill chain in Haiti. I'm having some problems with the internet this morning, so all my notes are all over the place, but we're trying to find that information for you. All right, so just to go back a bit, right? as I said earlier, it's important that we look at this because the documented drone program that is underway in Haiti, it tells a story of AI-assisted kill chain. This is the system that we see emerging there. Once again, we can see the find, we can see the fix, we can see the track, we can see the target, we can see the engage. There's no assessment. And even if there is any assessment, then they don't pay attention to it. And this is why we say it is in a vicious loop. So we see the surveillance going on, the identification of a target, and so on. What is actually happening in Haiti? 1,243 people killed in drone strikes between March 2025 and January 2026. One of the things that we don't have the numbers for beyond January to now. So as soon as we get that, I'll have a conversation about that in the space. 738, including civilians injured, and at least 17 children and dozens of non-combatants are killed. They say they're fighting gang warfare. One strike alone of this kill chain technology, AI technology, has killed 57 people in a single operation, and this is according to Human Rights Watch. So we're seeing small quadcopter drones with explosives, and they are being operated in dense urban areas like Port-au-Prince, and they're using live video feeds to track these individuals and to track vehicles. Who's operating these? We're not 100% sure, but we're hearing, according to Human Rights Watch, the Haitian Security Forces and a special task force. And the special task force, supported by a private military contractor, Vectus Global. That's the name I'm trying to recall. Vectus Global. And they are licensed in the United States. It's also approved by the U.S. Export Licensing, Vectus Global. As a matter of fact, when the United States Embassy in Haiti was contacted by both Human Rights Watch and other media outlets, legacy media outlets, they did confirm that they were part of the decision to bring in Vectus Global. Vectus Global is a new name for Blackwater. The United Nations has said that the strikes are unlawful and disproportionate. There is evidence of extrajudicial killings. This is according to the People's Dispatch. Reuters quote the United Nations as saying the strikes are likely unlawful and disproportionate. And Human Rights Watch has also said the victims often do not pose immediate threat. This is a situation, no clear evidence of investigations into the deaths, according to Human Rights Watch. So the AI kill chain is up and running in Haiti. It's a testing ground, though. It's a testing ground for the AI weaponry technology, especially kill chain. So even when AI is not explicitly acknowledged, the operational pattern strongly suggests AI-assisted targeting. And we could go through the find, the fix, the track, the target. So we say 2F, 2Ts, EA. Right, to understand what's happening there, you can literally go through that. Many analysts who have looked at this have, without even going into analyzing what that means, have pointed to this emerging AI warfare model being used in Haiti. But they haven't stopped to question that. I mean, this is just like a, by the way, a throwaway sentence in the analysis of what's happening there. And this is frightening, to say the least. So, for me, we're looking at Gaza. The testing of the AI technology, obviously used in Gaza, obviously used in Russia, obviously used in Ukraine, and without a doubt being used in Haiti. Somalia, I think, is critical to this conversation. Also, the extent to which they are testing these warfare weapons on AI weaponry for warfare on the people of Africa and its diaspora. This is, for me, one of the most frightening things that we're experiencing now, because if this can be tested in Haiti, it can be used in Jamaica. It's being used in the Caribbean waters already. The strike on the boats that are out there in the Caribbean waters, that they tell us that they're targeting drug traffickers and they're killing fishermen and so on. Those strikes are obviously is a kill chain technology that's being used there. Find, fix, target, the rest of it. And then they come back and tell us that, these were drug traffickers. But the countries will say, but these are fishermen who are out in the water. So they're already using this technology in the Caribbean waters. They're using it in the Caribbean, of course, because it is being tested. Haiti has become a testing ground for a kill chain warfare, hybrid kill chain warfare. That's what's happening in Haiti. We can't always remain silent. Jamaica's taken a position of preemptive obedience. Preemptive obedience, meaning you obey what you think an autocratic or a more powerful government or regime or state might want from you. So we preemptively have taken ourselves away from almost everything, sometimes without even being asked to do that. What kind of foolishness is that? So this is where we find ourselves, where in Haiti, this is happening in our background. The question is, if it can happen in Haiti, can't it happen to any family in Jamaica? And it doesn't have to be because of how it is, we see it unfolding, even with the boat and so on. It's precise. So they can just take you out. Obviously, you'll probably take out your community too. One of the Iranian top generals was killed that way just last week. They tracked him from the demonstration. He went to his daughter's house and they pinpointed him there and that technology was used. And he was out, and Israel announced, we got him. This is where we are with the technology. This is where we are with the warfare. We're totally out of time. We're going to have another discussion this morning about Haiti. But the questions as we move from here that we must ask ourselves, if it can happen to our brothers and sisters in Haiti, can't it happen in Jamaica? What is our responsibility? Should we be talking among ourselves about this? Don't we have a responsibility to ensure that we do not just lie down and say it's artificial intelligence, it's coming anyway, it must come anyway? It is anti-intelligence. And if we allow it to just come anyway, then we are literally saying we're part of the slave class, or we're here to die. Enslave or die, or preemptive obedience. I know there's a more technical term for that, but I'm calling it that. Preemptive obedience, which is what Jamaica is doing now. No, we cannot, we must not, we should not. We've got to take a stand, even if we're sitting down. Side of the Africa Forum, this is Running Africa, and we're in very, very serious times. The war against Iran, World War III, which was not announced, has not been announced, and probably will never be announced, is escalating. It's not getting any better. As we are rising this morning, we see where it is escalating. There's a lot happening in Iran, around the GCC, in Israel and Turkey and Afghanistan and Pakistan and Ukraine and Russia and Gaza and Haiti and Cuba. There's still a chokehold, a blockade on Cuba. Russian ships are heading to Cuba. America says you are not allowed to take the oil that Russia is sending to you to save your life. You're not allowed to take it. Let us watch and see what happens in Sudan, in the DRC, in Somalia, in the AES and parts of the AES. We must tell you that because Jinn is still very, very active. All of these so-called terrorist groups operating on the continent of Africa, created by operatives within powerful companies, and we'll talk about that another time. But we do know that ISIS was created, Al Qaeda was created, JNIM was created, and we know the oppressive forces continue to create these so-called terrorist groups. And then when they're finished with them, they leave the places dry and empty. But not only that, sometimes they call for them again to be presidents and prime ministers of countries. For example, in Syria today, the prime minister of Syria is a former head of Al Qaeda. Make that make sense. It tells you, though, a lot of what is happening around us. World War III will not be announced, and we're not calling down anything on anyone. Basically, what we're saying, what is the solution? What is the solution of the African people? What is our solution? Are we just going to be talking about it, or are we going to develop the protocols and policies and so on as to how to move from here? Because really and truly, if we're going to keep every day just talk about how the ships are being blocked in the Strait of Hormuz, and our geography is at the top now. We know where the Strait of Hormuz is. We know where Kog Island is. We know where Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iran and all of them there. And we're just watching this and having conversations about it. But what are we going to do for our own survival? Because if these ships are really blocked, and they are, you're talking about fertilizer, you're talking about oil, of course, you're talking about oil and gas, you're talking about food. We depend so heavily on imports, just generally speaking, that we have abandoned agriculture in this country and in the Caribbean for the most part. So what are the solutions? Are there any solutions? What are they? And how do we survive? We cannot just sit around having conversations about what is happening and not about what to do. And if we see if you really look at what's happening in Jamaica, as I said earlier, Jamaica has taken a preemptive obedience stance. In other words, Jamaica is reading America's mind and is obeying even that which America has not asked Jamaica to obey. This is basically where we are. I'm going to go now to the phone lines, and where my very special guests, I think, are standing by now. Egbert Shaka Higino, and our brother Trevor Garibale Palacio. And they're going to be talking to us about the Balashu initiative as we look at the Garifuna Nation. I think I do have them online. Let me know if they... Oh, yes, I'm seeing you. Thank you. I'm not sure why I wasn't seeing you before, so I was here just ad-libbing through. But apparently you've been there for a while. My brother Egbert, we did say who you were before, so thank you so much again, President of the Garifuna Nation. Thank you so much for joining us inside of the Africa Forum.
Thank you very much too, Sister Kabu from the Ivory FM station, Jamaica. I'm glad to be joining you.
It's good to see you, my brother Trevor Garibale Palacio. Is it Palacio? Thank you so much, my brother. Is it Palacio?
It's Garibale Palacio Lembe.
Thank you so much.
Morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us inside of the Africa Forum. All right. We've had many discussions in the space on the Garifuna Nation, but just remind our listeners, we get new listeners from all over the world every day. When we talk about the Garifuna Nation, what are we talking about, Shaka?
Yes, Sister Kabu is Kabu, right?
Yes, Kabu.
So the Garifuna Nation, I would define it on two fronts. You know, the Garifuna community was disrupted when it was in this part of the so-called Western Hemisphere. Mm-hmm. And so we are advocating that recognitions be made from both angles. One, the former where we are registered in the United States as a nonprofit, chartered, you know, the formalities that I don't have to go into. And then we operate as a formal entity, and informal entity, so to speak. I like to turn that noise in the background. You're hearing it?
No, I'm not hearing the noise.
Okay, thank you. So, yes, the Garifuna Nation exists, and I bring greetings from my ancestors in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, which is known to us in a folkloric, traditional word of mouth as Yurume. My ancestors referred to St. Vincent and the Grenadines as Yurume. So I'd like to, from now on, refer to it as Yurume.
Yurume.
And there are several stations or communities in Nicaragua of our people who speak the same language and preserve all cultural practices. We are in Honduras, over 30 communities in Honduras, which is constantly being disrupted, as people would have heard over the TV stations and radio stations. We are in Guatemala, and we are in Belize, and several communities in the United States. So we refer to it as a nation, even though perhaps the formal institutes would not want to refer to us as a Garifuna Nation. Just to lay that out, and the formal body is having an election today. The Garifuna Nation is having an election today, and since my term of office actually ends today, so later on today I might not be president of the Garifuna Nation formally.
Well, are you up for re-election or?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, we're rooting for you, and let us know what happens on the backside of this. We'll obviously reach out to you on that and have you back to talk some more about this. All right. So the elections are on the way today.
Right, formally, for the formal Garifuna Nation. But I want to tell people that we exist as a nation.
Yes.
Just like how the Inuit Nation exists, just like how the Zulu Nation exists.
Yes.
We are a nation of people.
All right. And obviously, Trevor, you've been just looking at the information we have, the work that you've been doing as a younger one, youth in the business, who is carrying on the works of the ancestor and the Balashu Initiative. I want to go right there. Talk to us a little bit about that and what the challenges are and the work that you are doing now. All right, Trevor, I think you're muted, Trevor.
Good morning to all of our brothers and sisters, our Maroon brothers and sisters in Jamaica. I want to take this opportunity to thank Marilyn Dr. and Professor Marilyn Douglas Jones in Houston, Texas of Caribbean Impact. She's been a key player in the Garifuna Heritage Rite of Passage and Pilgrimage to St. Vincent and the Grenadines since day one. Sister Douglas has been working with me personally since 2016 when I first got involved in the Garifuna community because I grew up amongst African Americans myself, personally. But I was born Trevor, named by a Jamaican nurse in Belize. That's a beautiful thing. Now here I am speaking with Jamaican brothers and sisters, but Trevor is my colonial name. Now I have emancipated myself from mental slavery. Now my name is Garabali, and Garabali means wind.
Garabali.
Yes, it means wind.
Wind.
Yes, wind.
Let's welcome the wind. Let's welcome the wind. I'm proud, my brother, when I hear our brothers and sisters say we've emancipated ourselves and we have reclaimed our names, which is what you do. We decolonize ourselves and we're reclaiming our names. So Garabali, thank you so much, my brother, for coming on. All right, so the work you're doing specifically now, talk to us about that, the initiative, the Balashu Initiative.
Well, it's more than the Balaso Initiative. Again, it's a two-part initiative called the Garifuna Heritage Rite of Passage, RITE, which is focused on the youth, ages 13 to 19. And the pilgrimage is the second component, which is focused on adults and everyone else. And behind all of that are economic development initiative, retrieval of language, culture in certain places like St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Nicaragua. We're focused on retrieval in those countries. But we're looking at the United States of America, Honduras, Guatemala, Belize. We're focused on preservation in those countries.
Yeah.
So we've been able to articulate the difference between retrieval, preservation, and the communities that we entertain every time we go there. So right now we're going to St. Vincent and the Grenadines because the focus is retrieval in that specific country. And that's where Baliso Island happens to be. On April the 12th, on March the 11th of 1797, we were exiled from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, dropped off on the island of Bequia, and then dropped off to die on the island of Baliso. Approximately 5,500 of us were dropped off on the island of Baliso to die there. On March the 1st of 1797, approximately 2,000 people, men, women, and children were massacred in one day.
Wow.
One day. A couple of weeks later, by March the 11th, we're exiled to the country of Roatan, Honduras, where only approximately 2,500 people made it.
April.
There are approximately, go ahead, sir.
Brother Garabali, April, March.
April,
is different.
Yeah.
So April.
Yeah,
right?
March the 11th is when we got exiled. April the 12th is when we landed on the island of Roatan.
All right, hold for me.
17, yeah.
Hold right there for me. Let me take a quick break, please. My Garifuna brothers who are online, just talking about, if you recall, I think it was last year that we spent quite a period of time on this program in solidarity and doing all the interviews too with our brothers and sisters fighting for an island. And let me just remind you by saying an island that was a private island, was being put up for sale, how the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines got involved, what happened on the backside of that. And that was quite a fight by our brothers and sisters. But basically this is, it ties right back into the conversation that we're having here with our brother Shaka and our brother Garibali. And you see how we just go Shaka and Garibali now, we're on our own now. This is where we are. As
his name, my teacher from then Rhodesia was in Belize, and I became very conscious that I needed an African name. So he said, take Shaka, before I knew who Shaka was. And I hats off to him. Now it's in Zimbabwe that got the freedom from Rhodesia. So full circle.
Full circle.
Talking about Africa, right? Gari, linguistically, if you look at Gari, the whole of West Africa is associated with Gari, right? And so our people, our ancestors decided that this new civilization in this part of the Western Hemisphere would be called Garifuna, Gari, which is from the roots, continuum of the root, people who seek peace and enlighten and bring, pleasure to for the flourishing of the world. We're here back to tell the story with all the evidence. As I would say, all the inductive evidence that we have the numbers, we have the causation of why our people are in Honduras, Nicaragua, Belize, and the United States in large numbers. The numbers are there and could be rectified, but we are here to tell the story that the struggle of liberation continues, because UNESCO has a lot to say about the intangibles, right?
Yeah.
And we give them credit for that we are being honored as a gift to humanity because of our, culture, language. But we're looking at the tangibles. Baliso is a tangible project that we are advocating for with all the assistance that we could get from our brothers and sisters at the University of the West Indies or, historically black colleges. Everybody is welcome on board.
Yes.
Because in discussions recently, Brother Garabali and I have been in discussions with the authorities in St. Vincent. We don't just want a pier to have access. You know what I mean? Some people are talking about the pier. Leave it as natural as it is with all the trees and the erosion that is going on. This is a very big project that is of, magnanimous significance to all people.
Yes.
Right?
So talk to us about that in terms of what the issues are surrounding it now, and what our people are asking for. What our people want, and not so much asking, but want.
I told Garabali when we started this project that I'll give him full support since he had initiated the idea of rites, of passage for young people. And so in the spirit of that, I'll always give him the platform to start the discussion. This is a continuum. I see it as a very good project. And even though I'm president of the so-called Garifuna Nation as a formal body, I'm giving him my full support because there is also that need in our community to have continuum.
Yes.
And for us as an elder, to give him that full support so that we make sure that the vision is not like sidetracked to something that is just like a peer.
Yes.
I've been hearing this discussion about, just leave it as natural as it is. It's too much money. We have gone from $30 million to track who were the real owners to tell the government of St. Vincent, Urume, right, that this is ours. This is the Garifuna People's Project, right? It shouldn't be sidelined into little pockets. So this discussion is just beginning. So I want to just hand it over to Garabali.
All right. And my brother, I'm so sorry that we just have half an hour with you this morning. So we have about 5 minutes. So I'll just give you the rest of the time to talk about that.
So what we were saying earlier, thank you, IRI FM and our host and President Chaka. So March the 11th of 1797, we get exiled. April the 12th, we get to Roatan, Honduras. We disperse. That's when the nation was broken down and tore down. What's happening now is an empire, a nation coming back together. And Balaso Island represents Goree Island in the Western Hemisphere. It's like Senegal, Goree Island, the point of no return. So this place is going to become a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And it's going to be not only for Garinagu people, this is for all indigenous peoples. And it's important that our Maroon brothers and sisters also know that they too are a part of what we're doing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Our Haitian brothers and sisters, you are a part of what we're doing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. This is about retrieval. We're the only Blacks in the Western Hemisphere who are from the Western Hemisphere who still speak an ancient language. Within that ancient language are secrets to the existence and the survival of our ancestors. We want to give that back to the Maroon brothers and sisters. We don't have enough time to really get into it, but when we did get exiled, they dispersed us all the way to London, all of these other countries that we talked about. But let's also say that there was a good number of people that they dispersed to Jamaica. So there's also Garifuna roots in Jamaica, because when we got exiled, that was one of the stops and ports where they dropped off maybe 20, 30 people.
So that's obviously, and of course, always that connection. I was just talking to a brother last week where we raised the point, and I think this might have been off air, I'm not quite sure if we said it on air, of when we talk about the connectiveness or the connectedness of our people in the region, we have to get beyond, I think, identifying ourselves according to how they stratified us, and talked about the relationship in particular between St. Vincent and Jamaica. So we go talking in our homes, hearing a lot about St. Vincent, first other Caribbean nation, and that was my father. And I don't even know why. My father is not with us in body anymore, so I can't even ask him, why did you always talk so much about St. Vincent? You know, because I think
the land of the blessed, land of the blessed, because Urume, St. Vincent means the land of the blessed. And in 1937, my mentor, the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey, was in Stubbs, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So I want to say that what's happening now, it's time for one God, one aim, one destiny, right? And this is our ancestors quaking and waking us up. And Marcus Mosiah Garvey also said, you will find me in the whirlwind.
yes. And finally,
And my name is Garabali, the whirlwind.
Garabali. Listen, in just 30 seconds that we have, how can those of us who are listening in Jamaica now, who understand ourselves as indigenous people, be a part of what's happening with this initiative and generally with the work that is being done now?
Contact Marilyn Douglas Jones, who is a Jamaican sister with Caribbean Impact. She is a part of the Garifuna Heritage Rite of Passage and Pilgrimage.
How do we find her?
Has been.
Just Google her name?
No, her contact number is going to be, as soon as you're ready.
Go ahead.
Garabali, you want to just put that in the chat?
All right, because I'm not sure.
Contact number is 713.
If you're on YouTube, you can put that in. But sorry, go ahead. Yes.
Our contact number is 713-304-5983. That's Marilyn Douglas Jones with Caribbean Impact. Just let her know that Garabali and President Chaka sent you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, both. I'll invite you back for more time because we were scheduled to speak last week and we have a really short time this week. But this is something that I like to continue, the conversation I like to continue with you, and also to see how we can foster even stronger relationships between yourselves and us here in Jamaica. So thank you so much, my brothers.
Iris, sister.
Give thanks. Right, you're inside of the Africa Forum. This is Running African, and pay some attention. Time now for us to go back and do our research, read, talk about ourselves. We're talking about what's happening in the world, and it's important to do that. But our answer lies within ourselves and within our indigeneity and within our people, within our indigenousness, if you will, in terms of who we are, who we were, and who we still can be innately. Genetically, our genetic memory is there, and for most of us intact, and a lot of us are awakening to who we are and what we can be. First of all, let us get together as Caribbean people. This is where we start, in our communities, and then as Caribbean people. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. 7:34. Thank you so much for joining us inside of the forum this morning. Let the circle be unbroken. By the way, I say that all the time, and I know it's an old Pentecostal hymn, if you will, that we sang in church and so on. But it's also the topic of a book by our sister, Marimba Ani. Let the Circle Be Unbroken, The Implications of African Spirituality in the Diaspora. There it is. We're seeing it. Okay, so there it is. All right, Marimba Ani has been actively committed to Pan-African liberation since her involvement with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee in Mississippi 1963 to 1966. She considers herself an African-centered cultural scientist seeking to retrieve and articulate the African worldview. Her work attempts to promote understanding of spirit as a basis for African-centered thought and political ideology. She suggests that Let the Circle Be Unbroken be used as a frame of reference from which to approach Yurugu, an African-centered critique of European cultural thought and behavior, of which she's also the author. Since 1995, she has been concerned with the challenge of the healing of African people. She lectures on Ma'at, Ma'afa, Sankofa paradigm, which she has developed as a context for understanding the nature of the construction, destruction, and reconstruction of African civilization. Her newest publication is an edited work, To Be African. By the way, she's been here before in Jamaica. She was a guest at our celebrations, our tribute to Mortimer Marcus Messiah Garvey some time ago. But here's a book, and we love it. Let the Circle Be Unbroken. Marimba Ani now lives on the continent of Africa. We talk from time to time. Thank you. We talk from time to time. And she's come on this program ever so often. If you remember, just a few, was it last year sometime? We were doing a link with Ghana, and she was at an event there, and we didn't even know. We were linking with our sister Tendai. Tendai, who says, speak truth to the people, the words of Amilcar Cabral. And she says, guess who's here? And it turned out to be Sister Marimba Annie. So once again, get the book, Let the Circle Be Unbroken. That's a very small book. So get that and then look for Urugo. All right? Very important. All right, let me go to the phone lines where our next very special guest is standing by. Our brother, journalist, Pan-African disc jock, living in Buffalo, New York, Ras Jomo, should be back online with us. Ras Jomo, my brother, how you doing? All right, I'm not hearing you, Ras Jomo. Yeah.
No, today I'm doing well. Are you able to see me now? I just touched the screen and moved something. Can you hear me and see me?
I'm hearing you and seeing you, I think.
Right.
Yes,
Yep,
there you are.
All right, good. We
Yes,
have a little
yes.
rain going on. I was out in the vehicle. Doing well today. Just following along and just amazed at how African interconnected, the spirit and the circle is. So we just had some lectures the last few days, and it's like your show is giving a summary of what all of us are talking about here in the conscious community in our part of the world. So we're giving thanks and we give greetings, Rastafari family, and all those African minds and those who recognize who we are.
I mean, this is a time, if there was never a time, or if there was ever a time, it is now for African people, wherever we are, to begin to think at least about unity and interconnectedness, as you said before, but the solutions lie within ourselves. We're talking this morning with Ras Jomo, who is a broadcaster, DJ, a presenter in Buffalo, New York himself, who has been looking at the trajectory of politics, if you will, or how politics and the decisions by politicians and the different moments in history are impacting Black Americans, African Americans. And one of the last last time you were here for, was that Rebel Salute? And I think that was...
No, it was actually years ago. It was before this election even took place.
That's
and
true.
I told you what.
That is true. And we had
the election even took place.
We had that discussion on air, partly, and then we continued it as we drove to your hotel, which was to say, talk to us about what you saw. This is before the elections that between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. You literally laid out what the situation was like in the United States, what it was about to be, especially for African Americans. Remind us of what you envision and where we are now.
Well, just real briefly, is really just studying our history from Black perspective. The same thing that's happening in Jamaica, in Belize, and Garifuna, Cuba, Haiti. History, as told on the media often, is not the same thing that's happening to African people. And if we only accept someone else's narrative, we look at things only through their eyes, having things from our own perspective allow us to really see clearly. I study civics and I pay attention to political things. I know in my heart and mind, no politician is going to solve Black people's problems unless Black people have a Black agenda, and their agenda is what the political people have promised to take. We don't win around the world because none of these political systems are created by us. And I think that's why Marcus Garvey wanted to create the People's Political Party, because we needed an agenda that reflects, we need a system that reflects our agenda. Our agenda has to reflect our values, not values of other people that we're fighting over. And I'm not saying that for Jamaica specifically. I'm saying that for Black people all over. We have a so-called two major party system, and we get caught up because we have to try to vote on things that
I think we're losing you
the
there.
most important. But looking at history. Okay, it might be so. I'll recap.
All right, we're having
when we are in these systems. Am I glitching still?
Yeah, we're having a connection problem with you, but I heard you just now. So let's go on and see what happens.
Okay. What I was just saying is that we have to always make sure that our values and agendas are at the priority. And in most of these systems, 100% of what we need is not there, but we have to make sure that we try to preserve life as much as we can. We live in a system where it seems like everyone, like Bob Marley said, all guns are aiming at me. All of these systems that have been
All right, what I'm going to do, Master Joma, is I'm going to take a quick break and see if we can fix what the problem is. I'm not quite sure that we can, but let me just take this quick break because we're not hearing you. So let me do this quickly. Right, it's a really poor connection. So but we're going to try and see through. All right, so let me go to this then. What is it? Because we're looking at the MAGA moment that you predicted. And especially as it's impacting African Americans, Black America, if you will. What in terms of what you envision and what we're seeing now? Talk to us through that, the current situation and what you envisioned earlier. Do you remember some of the stuff that you said to us?
All
you
right.
talked about
Yes.
how African Americans, some cities were going to become. Exactly what we see happening with ICE now. You talk
Right.
about how there was an undercurrent of racism that wasn't so much undercurrent. It was totally blowing its top. And that we, outside of the United States, do not necessarily understand the extent to which this was about to become
Right.
this powder keg that would blow. Are we seeing a blowing of the powder keg racially?
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me clearly now?
Hearing you clearly now.
Okay. So what we were talking about is that I was explaining to you that beyond Vice President Harris and beyond Donald Trump, the regime and the minds behind them are people that represent a thought process that goes back with the same mentality of enslavement in America. This whole idea of make America great in reverse is take America back again. And it's back to where? Okay, so if you understand the minds, the investment, the thought processes before Elon Musk, before the connection with the Afrikaners, Donald Trump, we want to stop immigration from African countries and places of color where Black people are, but we need to go to South Africa to save the Afrikaners. Why go to Africa and bring in so-called Europeans? The clampdown is on stopping Black progress, Black numbers, and not going back pre-civil rights with Dr. King, but actually going back before the Emancipation Proclamation, where Black people's citizenship and their personhood have no value in a modern system. So, for instance, people outside might not realize that one of the largest voting blocs in the U.S. Congress is the Congressional Black Caucus. We have a record number of African American people elected in Congress right now. With the gerrymandering that you're seeing taking place, or repositioning where people's votes count for, that whole idea is to remove and erase that voting block and all of those representatives. Mm-hmm. This idea, we know that Dr. King, and I have to give credit to you, about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, you re-brought up the book again, Where Do We Go From Here, Chaos or Community? That book written by Dr. King in St. Anne's.
In Jamaica, Julius.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
That's right. Yeah. And that book was republished. We picked up that book, and for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been promoting and asking all families to reread that book, because it's actually like a newspaper clipping of what is happening in America right now. So with that book being out of print, most of all of the political pundits, all of the African media, everyone is talking about that book. But what he's communicating about one of the most important things is it's called the white backlash. And the white backlash, he gives a history in America that every time Black people in America progress, whether it's the 13th Amendment, which abolishes slavery, except if you're duly convicted of a law. That's the except clause in the 13th Amendment.
Okay,
the 14th Amendment gave citizenship, which is the birthright citizenship, was based off of what took place and what to do with Africans who were in America after emancipation. And then the 15th Amendment, this whole idea about having the right to vote. All of these things are being legally challenged in America, as we speak right now. Any day the Supreme Court can rule and remove some of the things that Dr. King had fought for as far as voting rights, which means that we actually can be removed going back not 60 years, we can be removed back to the 1860s based upon what is being promoted, not just by him, but it's a system of minds and people who have been working to erase Black progress since our emancipation.
But let me ask you this, Master Jomo. Does this present, on the other hand, a moment for African Americans and for Black America, a moment of honesty in terms of what the racial, political, and economic, if you will, situation is for the community, and a moment for honest reflection and a conversation and action as to where Black America goes from here? Because Black America has been supporting, to a large extent over many years, the Democrats. And, take for example, Joe Biden. That was a disaster for African Americans. I'm not sure. I heard a very nuanced conversation from our brother from the Nation of Islam on Barack Obama's reign, if you will. But for me, I mean, I'm looking on as an outsider, but also looking at the history of this.
Let me get it. Yeah. Listen, let me explain to you. I said it a little earlier. It might have been when the phone was glitching. No political party is going to save Black people without a Black agenda. And Black people in America for years have been voting with their heart, meaning that if you know what's happening with us, you should take care of us. But that's not how civics and politics really work in America. So with President Barack Obama, there's a lot of things that an African-minded person would have wanted. It's just not going to happen in these systems right now. But President Barack Obama did give people access to health care. So just like in Jamaica and in America, the health morbidities for Black Americans are disastrous. And because people in America, I know people think that everybody in America is rich and gold and money is laying on the streets with brand new Air Jordans. That's not really how it is. All right. So inside of America, there are many people who are overworked and underpaid, just like in the Caribbean, just like in Jamaica. Many people in America are working and they are still below the poverty line. So without medical insurance, many times the first visits to the doctors might be the emergency room. And by the time you go to the doctor and they really find out what's happening, it's a little too late. So those things have been causing health problems in Black America for decades. This idea about giving people access to insurance is to give people access to go to the doctors to get themselves taken care of so they can live longer with a higher quality of life. I know that's a little technical and it sounds like, the affordable health care, Obamacare. That's what the process was behind that. The most important thing that President Trump did within a few months was to try to destroy poor people's access to health care. And it also is going to affect poor white people too. It is. So what happens is there are certain qualities of life. I'm not, Black people in the beginning were Republican. And that's when the Republicans were thinking about, Abraham Lincoln was a so-called Republican. But then the Republicans became taken over and they became what we call a Southern Dixiecrats, or the racist white Southerners became the Republicans, and it switched. So around Dr. King's time, we switched so-called parties, but the heart and mind of white dominance remains as a part of American culture, like apple pie. All right. So if we don't have Black history, we'll get thoroughly confused. And if you don't know African American history, it makes it a little bit more convoluted. Everything that Black progress in America has done, even things that have excited and had Jamaican artists and musicians singing the love of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, all of those progresses in America, you don't fight and win and keep it. This administration is showing you that you have to fight. And Coretta Scott King said that every generation has to continue to fight. And that's one of the lessons that Black America has pretty much dropped the ball on a large mass. Every generation has to keep fighting here. We can't get a victory and think that it's over. Each
generation must determine, or I know I'm misquoting, but each generation must recognize what the issues are and our responsibility is to address those. Mumia reminds us of that, and I think he was quoting.
Right.
Who was he quoting? Was it Amilcar Cabral?
Well, Coretta Scott, yes, and Coretta Scott King says a similar thing as well. She's the one who promoted that every generation has to define and find themselves in the movement. They have to progress it,
discover its mission, fulfill it,
yes,
or betray
yes.
it.
Right,
and we're at this moment, aren't we, where we must discover understand what our mission is, and to fulfill that, or the other side of that is to betray it.
Yeah, well, Malcolm X said by the ballot or the bullet. Muda Baruka said by the ballot or the bullet. He said by the Bible or the gun. Any which way, freedom must come. We're being reversed into that category because it's not one issue right now. There are so many things going totally off in America that most people don't realize the extreme danger that we're in. I was just watching the reports a little while ago. Many airports in America might shut down soon. And the other idea is that they're going to put the ICE agents in the airports to operate as TSA agents. Remember, they're trying to pass a $200 billion budget to fight a war that was undeclared, unplanned, and unapproved. And no one can raise any money for reparations. We don't have money for this. We don't have money to correct problems. And as you also can see, everything that talks about progress, as this country is going towards its 250th anniversary, this administration is trying to erase everything that was done harmfully to African American people so that it's not a part of the narrative.
So
this
erasing
whole idea
the history
of trying to erase history.
Yeah. Is Black America ready for the moment, preparing for the moment, understand the moment enough and what the mission is?
The majority of Black America is bombarded by propaganda, misinformation, sports, and lottery. And and they're feeling the pain.
I just
but many people,
because
we have not passed down
sports and lottery. You said,
yeah. I'm just being honest. I live with my community people. I can speak honestly. And I'm saying that because the amount of distractions from the video, the pre-programming of TikTok and those things, the majority of people are not watching PLO Lumumba. They're not rewatching the Garvey. Many people are. I'm not saying that all aren't. But the majority of our community is bombarded with poverty, mental health struggles, educational struggles, underemployment. These things are everyday issues that most people don't realize have been plaguing Black America like white plagues rice. These things have been on us since slavery. The majority of people have not fully gotten themselves together. And Dr. King's book, most people don't know, he has this whole chapter talking about the dilemma or what happened like to Black America. And he runs down what happened to the family structure after being stolen from Africa. And remember, in America, marriage to Africans who were enslaved was illegal. Being able to read in America was illegal. So family planning, family structure, education, these things are by law. The government, which is why reparations is so important. This is what the government, what the states, what the counties have done to our people. We're not ignorant because we can't learn. We're still adjusting to the laws that were imposed upon our people in our community, the laws of family structure. Now, I know that a lot of Black people were made, but if you study the history of the state of Virginia, that place was a breeding ground. It was a place where they made men mate with women like horses and animals, not family structure. So without properly understanding the real history of what happened to Black people in America, you all would think that we're crazy for no reason. That there is a reason, just like when you study the history of what took place in Jamaica of breaking slaves and what they did to men and maybe why Jamaica is so sensitive to homosexuality. We need to understand what was done to men publicly.
Where
and
do
most
we
people don't know that? All
right. So here we are in a moment, an inflection point. It is indeed. So let us go to Dr. King's book and the title of his book, because that question was asked, and I think I don't know the extent to which we're answering it. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community? And by the way, I've been asking that question for over 15 years.
Who we are.
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yes, yes.
Well, we those of us who want to live are going to have to define who we are and who are we going to stand with. In America, COVID showed us exactly what is possible, whether it was pre-planned or programmed. It showed us that if this system shuts down, are we going to fall with Babylon, or are we going to learn how to get back together again? And that's not just in America. That should be for everywhere in the world. If that was a test or a dry run, are we prepared to depend upon each other, stop wasting knives, bullets, machetes, and ammunition on each other, and maybe make sure that we turn those things and those tools and that energy into protecting each other? If a hurricane comes, the government might not come, and I have to say it, that's what Joy was on my radio show talking. The government might not be able to save you, even if they want to. What are we going to do to protect ourselves? If we don't realize it now, I'm in the city of Buffalo. You all know that we had the racist massacre where the young man came in and killed 10 members of our community, shot 3 others. And if he would have got out of the supermarket, his plan was to drive through the community on a Saturday when everybody's out leisurely and just release all of his AR-15 bullets on our community. These are the plans that were on young minds. Don't you know that many of these people probably who have masks on at ICE, one of the first things that the president of this country did was pardon all of the people who rioted in January 6th. I think I was telling you about that. Those people are the police, the military, government officials. Those are the people who was raiding the Capitol to so-called take America back. And even in their armed rebellion, they were pardoned. Do you realize that there are commercials on our radios every day giving people bonuses if they sign up with ICE? They heard that there's like $3,000 a head for every person you get arrested. They're arresting people who are United States residents who are able to be here legally, and then they're deporting them to other countries. So if you can't find these people before they're moved or when they're detained, you don't know where the people are. There are people who are being arrested who are here legally.
So here we are, Jomo. It's a Jim Crow era. It's a Jim Crow era. It is alive and well.
It's all of it at the same time.
Yeah, we're seeing an interesting thing, because what you described, I mean, is very similar in Europe. We see a very similar situation in the United Kingdom with the, people are talking about dark enlightenment and all kinds of stuff. But here we are in a period where we're seeing the rise again of racism in a way that we've never seen it. White supremacy, if you will, is raising its ugly head, and it's all across Europe. So it is in the United States also, but it's in the UK, it is in Germany, it is in France. It has taken to the street, and it is owning global media conglomerates. We see the buyout of media in the United States. It's the very same buyout in the United Kingdom, and it is all the very same people. So obviously we're moving from COVID, which was one phase of the global reset, into an energy reset. You talk about airports probably being locked down and flights probably not happening. It looks like we're moving into an energy reset, which will be another phase in the new world order. So the point I hear you saying that we have to get back to ourselves, understanding who we are, redefine and define ourselves, and then to move on from there. What is the urgency of now? What is most urgent right now? And that's my final question to you. We're totally out of time.
The urgency right now, I would encourage everybody to know where and check on your family. And I would ask that if there's emergencies, that we know how to contact each other. Those who are legal residents, those who are so-called U.S. citizens. Anything can happen at any time in America. And I hate to say it and really believe it, but anything can happen here anytime. And just remember, America has not seen any ground war or anything like that in a long time. Mm-hmm. Our people, with all of the crime and violence and guns in the community, our people are not ready for what could happen in these places. So I would encourage everybody, know who your friends, your family, contact each other, call each other, and have a plan of emergency just in case. And until then, save money, be conscious.
Thank you so much, my brother. Thank you. It sounds simple, but that's the bottom line. That's basically where it lies. Thank you so much, my brother Jomo. A quick break and we'll be right back. Dr. Pernell Bell. Dr. Bell is a consultant clinical psychologist, author, and mental health professional with extensive experience in psychological assessment, psychotherapy, organizational consultation. She's a founder of the Caribbean Diagnostic Psychotherapy Institute, where she provides clinical services, supervision, and professional training to developing practitioners. She no stranger, as we said earlier, to IRIA FM. She's been on Sex-Wise for many moons, working with Nero. Her work spans clinical psychology, counseling, and organizational development, with particular interest in trauma-informed care, ethical practice, and the role of psychological insight in personal and organizational transformation. And she's an author. She has been actively involved in mentoring and supervising emerging psychologists and contributes to professional education and dialogue with the mental health community. Her most recent work is Life Mosaics, and this explores themes of personal growth, healing, and complex experiences that shape human lives. She is joining us on the phone line. She's also on Zoom. I'm not sure. I'm not seeing her. Is she with us? Dr. Bell, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, there you are. Dr. Pernell, good morning. Welcome. I'm so glad and so happy to see you. Thank you so much for joining us on the Africa Forum this morning. You're also, we didn't mention it just now, but you're also going to be the keynote at the BEV, Black Educators Voices, next week, Saturday. And we'll tell people how they can get involved in that and come and listen to you during the program. But Dr. Bell, thank you so much for joining us. Your work is so wide. You've been doing so much with various different communities in Jamaica. Tell us a little bit about that, from education to mental health. It's wide and varied. It's complex too if you look at it closely.
So I started out as a teacher, and then helping teachers to teach children and to understand them, even from that trauma-informed way. And then I segued into psychology, where I worked at the child and adolescent mental health clinics throughout Jamaica, or across the Northeast region, where I intervene with them in terms of assessment, diagnosis, and treatment of mental health issues that they present with.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for being over time a consultant psychologist to IRIA FM. You worked very closely with Kishiba Francis on Sex-Wise, and also I think with Sonia Sims earlier. So thank you so much for that. But what a time we're living in. Jamaica, and I'm sure you've spent a lot of time looking at the Jamaican society and issues of mental health and trauma. What are the most significant things that are standing out to you, or that have stood out to you, regarding where Jamaica is when it comes to trauma and mental health?
I think when we look at this society from both a social and psychological perspective, we begin to recognize that trauma is pervasive in our society. And if we were to really give a definition of what trauma is to help our audience to understand that, it's really a person's response to some distressing events that catch them in a state of relative helplessness. And so many of our children experience sexual abuse, physical abuse, they experience neglect and other emotional issues. They see violence, witness it, they're the objects of violence too in the society. So all of that, when we look at it, we would say that trauma is pervasive in our country.
You mentioned sexual violence and all kinds of other violence and violent acts against our children in particular. An ongoing conversation, Dr. Bell, in Jamaica for many years. From your own perspective and a professional perspective, how pervasive is, say, sexual violence as opposed to other kinds of violence, or do they intersect among our young people, children, against children in Jamaica?
While I don't have the exact statistics, I can say within even my own practice as a psychologist for over 25 years or more, I have seen that physical and sexual abuse is really very pervasive against our children here in Jamaica. Neglect too, but if I were to measure that, it would have to be both sexual and physical abuse.
Wow. Is it, are we seeing a change in terms of whether it is the extent to which people are becoming more aware, or the reporting, or even the prevalence?
Yes, there has been improvement in that area over the years. One time it was a silent story where persons would not report those, but now we are seeing a lot more reporting. We are seeing a lot more caution in terms of even parenting and violence against children in terms of physical abuse. We have also seen that CPFSA has a greater influence here in our society, where they are now kind of mandated and in a more forceful way to ensure that our children are safe.
How traumatized are we as a society? I know it's a big one.
Yeah, but trauma is pervasive. It is pervasive because some of the practices in Jamaica that seems normal and normalized is quite traumatic for many children. When we look, for example, at parenting and maybe even the harsh way parents parent, we can say that it could be traumatizing for a child. When we look at communities and how maybe the pervasiveness of violence in the community, that has become normalized too, in a sense, where the whole idea of vigilance and the whole idea of I having to protect myself become normalized. So yeah, I would say both the witnessing of and the being the object of some kind and levels of trauma.
And to go to the topic, which is basically to, and I know we're laying the groundwork because we're going to be talking to you for a series on these, which is basically to interrogate whether or not we're raising traumatized generations, and to look at the psychological roots of crime and silence also. When generations is deliberate, because how is trauma passed down? What is it that we need to know? How trauma can be passed down from generation to generation?
Yes, so there's intergenerational trauma in the sense that one, it could come from parenting practices, and my grandmother treated my mother in a particular way, and discipline was seen as using the rod and other forms of disciplinary measures or punishment for that matter. And then you will hear people say, that is what I know. My mother used to give me some lick. And for them, that's what parenting is about, and disciplining children. So they don't...
Well, spare the rod and spoil the child. I mean, it's also biblical, isn't it? Because some of this is bound up in the church and bound up also in slavery, isn't it?
You know, that is so misunderstood, that spare the rod and spoil the child, because the Bible wasn't saying abuse your child. That's what they were saying, and effect the rod in such a way. Remember, if we look back at even the kinds of tools, I call them, that are used to effect those rod like beatings.
Yes.
It's not good.
Violence.
Yeah. So it couldn't be the biblical way of seeing it. And using the rod is a form of discipline. And discipline comes from the word discipleship, which means to teach. So we need to really
Is there a special kind of personality disorder as opposed to mental health that it can that manifests in the abuse of others, in the way we see, some parents abuse their children, and even in domestic relationships where we see, partners abusing each other, especially men. It is what it is, especially men abusing women. Yes.
So it could be seen, in terms of social learning. You learn, and it could also be seen as psychological and psychiatric too. So social learning, I learned from my parents, and I pass it down to my children, because invariably the same children who were abused and decided in their mind as children that they would never treat their children like that, also perpetuate that kind of parenting style. Yeah. And then there is the psychological, because if you are experiencing abuse from very early, you're going to end up with either depression, anxiety, or some post-traumatic stress disorder. And out of that comes hyperarousal. So anything that triggers would dictate how you're going to respond. And so many times parents may, from that social learning, develop mental health concerns and then perpetuate that in terms of how they parent. So
I know there was a time in schools. Let me hold on a question. Let me take a quick break and come back. Sorry. Let me take a quick break. Segment with Dr. Bell. So I cannot believe it, Dr. Pernell Bell. Well, you're going to come back, and that's a good thing about all of this. When we talk about raising intergenerational trauma and raising a traumatized nation, if you will, a traumatized society, let us talk about how we can begin to address these, because we seem to be patterns of behavior is what you referenced just now, and these things are not hereditary, but it seems as if they are, like lifestyle diseases. So how do we begin the change process to change the status quo?
So we have to take it from the micro, the meso, and the macro level for change. So that meso level is really the core where proper parenting. So we would shift now from punishment to really prevention. So as early as parents who are pregnant, they should be taught proper parenting, early childhood intervention, and provide support for them in that micro way. And at the community level, this is going to call for programs that are going to go in and help children from that level. So remember, if they are traumatized from very early, or if there's prevention very early, then we won't have the need to be moving along in the different methodologies in terms of the METSO, which is the community level. And that community level now would look for us going into schools and helping teachers to identify, if you may, children who may be presenting with disruptive behaviors, but that is really, the disruption is masking trauma. So we'd want to do that. For the same thing, to help prevent community violence, where children are learning social learning in terms of how they're going to defend themselves, protect themselves, because they are in fear because of the kinds of violence that are perpetuated in the community. Proper policing too, where, as we now know, police organizations and situations like that where the police go in and also help in terms of helping the youths to develop themselves in a way that help them and prevent them from use.
Well, did we lose you there? Well, I think we, for a minute, it is a glitch, but I think she'll be back with us. So basically, so this is our conversation. All right.
Too.
All right, you're back with us. There was a glitch just now, and we didn't hear what you said. The last thing we heard was when you talk about the proper policing and so on. But Dr. Bell, these solutions, and you talk about the micro solutions specifically, we've been talking about these for a while. Where are we failing ourselves? Because it seems as if each year every time we have a conversation about mental health, we go to these solutions, which obviously these are the correct solutions. But why haven't we been able to change our situation in terms of violence and mental health and trauma in Jamaica?
I think it has to do with consistency and executing the programs and ensuring that the programs are sustainable. So many times we start a program and it is going good, and then somewhere along the line that program gets sidelined, and then there's a upsurge, and then it comes back into the public purview, and then a program comes back in place, and that level of consistency. So I think we lack consistency and sustainability with many of the programs that we have in place. They should become normal now and normalized, so that is the way things are in a way, and not just responding to crisis situation all the time.
Right, and that's the point, responding to crisis situation, and so we find ourselves in another loop of it's a paralysis of analysis, as Dr. Jeffries would say. This is where we find ourselves talking about the things that we know that we need to do, but as you say, the actions are not consistent. Part of this has to do with politics, of course, and tribalism in politics. So somebody comes in and everything changes, somebody goes out and they change again, and we've been seeing that over time. To what extent do you know if the solutions that we've discussed over time and that government have bought into and implemented and so on, to what extent are things centralized so that it doesn't even matter who is in or who is out? Can central government or centralized health providers or the health ministry, if you will, change this trajectory that we find ourselves in not being able to see this through?
Well, I wouldn't say it's not being able to see through. I would then believe that what we do need is that body of resources that would now help to sustain the programs that are, because it's not maybe even a lack of programs, because programs have come and gone. Even
yes.
There were years ago, there was a PALS program, Peace and Love in Schools.
Yes.
And that was a very, very effective program that I myself was a part of, being a trainer in that program.
Yes. And that we supported as Universal. Media supported widely, including IRFM. But are you saying that? So PALS worked? You're saying PALS worked?
Yes, it did. It did to a large extent, because children were now, which is some of the things that we are still talking about, where children learned how to deal with conflict. They also learned self-regulation. And this is what we are now seeing that is absent in many of our schools, where children are not learning how emotional intelligence, how to self-regulate. If there is a conflict, how to deal with those conflicts in a way that is going to be solution focused rather than violence perpetrated.
What happened to PALS? Do you know?
PALS over the years, I think, has lessened. I don't hear much about it now. I don't think it's still
I know they've got
schools.
a peace day and so on. I think the one just went to, but I honestly haven't heard about PALS. I want to continue this conversation with you. We're totally out of time. We're going to pick up, hopefully, if you can come back with us next week, and we pick up this, because I think this is a critical conversation to have. Quickly to say, you're going to be speaking on Saturday on BEV. Do you have the details in terms of where and how people can join?
So it is Zoom. I could actually send you the Zoom information.
Okay.
And I don't know how you would get that circulated.
I'll mention it later on in the program. But yes, so you're going to be on BEV, Black Educators Voices, an audience with Dr. Pernell Bell. It is March 28. The host is Elaine Williams. It's 8 p.m. UK and Tunisia time, 1 p.m. Jamaica time, and 12 p.m. USA. And so I'm seeing the Zoom ID. The ID is 391-888-7619. That's 391-888-7619. And the passcode is 104004. That's 104004. I'm seeing our listeners are saying to make sure that we bring you back next week. So, so please, Dr. Pernell Bell, hopefully, as it's up to your availability, we'd like to have you back with us next week to continue this conversation. Thank you so much.
Yes, because there are other important things that we didn't flesh out today, so I'll be back.
All right, brilliant. So we'll continue the conversation with Dr. Bell next week. Thank you so much, Dr. Pernell Bell.
You're welcome. Thank you.
In the meantime, work needs to be... So she's saying this is where our enslaved ancestors gathered every Sunday to be in community. So the invitation, join us in your all-white attire for the annual ancestral procession and the second line to Conga Square. This moment is at a time to invoke and call upon the spirits of our individual and collective ancestors and dance to the beat of ancient West African rhythms that carry them through times of trials and triumph. And this coming just after we spoke to Ras Jomo from Buffalo in New York, telling us about the MAGA moment in Black America. So the Conga Square in New Orleans, that's happening today. Joining me online, my brother Ako Mutota. He was born in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, that you know by now, so it's my Trinidad and Tobago brother. He's involved in the revolutionary movement there and in somewhat referred to as the Black Power movement. He was a senior member of the National Joint Action Committee of Trinidad and Tobago. He's also been involved in the book and publishing industry in the US, in Chicago and Atlanta for about 20 years. Brother Ako is a founder of the Rio Claro Heritage and Preservation Organization, an organization based in rural South Trinidad, and he's a founding member of the Caribbean Progressive Perspectives, and he joins us live online. Brother Ako, thank you so much for taking the time out to join us this morning.
Thanks, Sister Kabu, and good morning to your listening audience. And let me give a shout out to my people in Congo Square. In New Orleans. I have some very good friends there. Sister Vera, the owner of Community Book Center, and Sister Jennifer, the manager of the bookstore. So I have been to that place on more than one occasion. So I want to give a shout out to my people in New Orleans, Louisiana, and also to Brother Kalamu Yasalam. Actually, he's the poet laureate of New Orleans. Very,
Oh, wow. So this is brilliant. I'm quite sure Queen Mother Yerefine heard that. She is listening right now. She's been texting. So I'm quite sure she heard that just now, Brother Ako. Brother Ako, we've been having, this morning I spent some time talking about this new warfare, drone warfare and drone warfare technology, and that this is now being used in Haiti and Haiti as we set the foundation for the conversation that we're about to have. I'm sorry that we do not have a whole lot of time, but I want to go immediately to your own perspective of what the situation is like initially in Haiti right now, and your commentary on the extent to which this new kind of warfare is being unleashed on Haiti. Who's behind it? Who is doing this? What has changed in Haiti in terms of governance, military operation, and policing over time?
So, Sister Kabu, you know this saying, the more things change, the more they remain the same.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have to contextualize Haiti in that way, that despite the new methodologies and the new approaches to violence by the West, it is more or less a repeat of the same. You know, in trying to sort of conceptualize a sort of response to this interview, I started to look at history. What has happened in this hemisphere? How do we interpret the world? Which I think is what we have to understand. If you look at what happened 500 years ago with the Incas and the Aztecs, the indigenous people, it was this new technology and this new violence that basically exterminated their world. And I think as people who live in the contemporary situation, we have to understand the world for what it is. The world of 500 years ago is the world of today.
Mm-hmm.
The world of 500 years ago was ushered in by violence. The extermination of the indigenous people, the extermination of the enslavement of Africans, and our own extermination in some parts of the world.
Matter of fact, we're just talking about the Garifuna people earlier. So, I mean, this is really putting this in perspective.
So what we are witnessing now, and I think I'm trying to simplify for people to understand, because sometimes we make some of these things too complex. We talk about drone warfare and what is happening with the new killings in Haiti and so on. But what is happening is, our ancestors created a world, or came into a world, if you want to call it that, evolved into a world.
Yes.
You had two dimensions, a material world and an immaterial world. Okay? Or what you may want to call a physical world and a metaphysical world.
Yes.
Right? In that the material world dealt with things like economics, how you organize societies, communities, and so on. And the immaterial world or the metaphysical world dealt with eschatological things like concept of God, who made us, and all that kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
The two are interconnected. Once the Aztec lost their metaphysical world, they also lost their physical world. What you are seeing and what has replaced it is actually capitalism and imperialism and all the other things that derive from it, colonization and so on and so forth. So this history of violence is something that has been constant once we encountered the European in this part of the world. And what we are seeing in Haiti is just another manifestation of that world.
Mm-hmm.
This Italian philosopher, Gramsci, said that the old world is dying, the new world struggles to be born. It is a time of monsters. And this is what is really happening. A new world is being created before our eyes. And the world that was destroyed by the advent of imperialism and colonization, that world is trying to ensure that this new world is not created. Mm-hmm. And this is what we are seeing. You see, Haiti represents something very important to us. Haiti represents an attempt to reconstruct a new world, not just a physical world, because Haiti's world also had a metaphysical construct, which is what we call voodoo, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same way Rastas create a metaphysical world, right? In this time here. Mm-hmm. And so we have to understand it in that way, that there's a struggle between this old world that enslaved us, that colonized us, and this new world that we are trying to create. The war in Iran, for example, is an expression of that new world that is being created. What is happening in the Sahel? So Haiti is just part of this process right?
So I hear you, Brother Ako, in terms of the conflict, if you will, or the contention, some people call it an inflection point, of we're at a moment where there is a struggle between the old world and the new world, and some people talk about the new world order and the fourth industrial revolution and so on. But aren't these two worlds being created by the very same forces, in that where are we, the spiritual people you talked about just now, in the greater scheme of things? So the old world is dying, the new world is about to be born, but created by the very same force.
No. That new world is what people in Cuba, people in the Sahel are trying to create. That's what we are struggling to
Okay,
create.
I see, from that perspective, or not from the Marconi perspective of the new world order.
No. The new world is a conspiracy,
Okay. Yes.
is a conspiracy theory.
Yes.
What I'm talking about, that's why I said there is a material world, and an immaterial world, or a physical and a metaphysical. What a lot of us, the work you are doing and others, what we are doing in terms of raising consciousness of people, this is our attempt to create a new world. This is what the Cuban Revolution attempted to do, which Fidel always talks about. Let us imagine a new world. And this world that we are trying to create, where poverty is not natural, where violence against people is not natural, where wars are not tools of trying to coerce people, where wars doesn't exist, that is the new world.
Hold the point
this
for me.
Is what we're trying to create.
Hold the point for me, Brother Ako. The situation as it is now in Haiti, Brother Ako, you're challenging us to look at this from within from the lens of our African spiritual selves, and to connect this back, put this in a historical perspective in terms of our anciency, to understand what's happening now. And I hear you saying that there is a new world being born, this new world being created by us, by we the people, the spiritual African people, if you will. And you say this is happening in Cuba, this is happening in Haiti, this is happening across the world. And this the violence that we see is a struggle between, if you will, good and evil. Is that basically it?
Yes, if you want to contextualize it that way, but that is simplifying it, because again, sometimes we look at this idea of good and evil through this, what I call missionary theological perspective, right? Which has a concept of a chosen people. I do not believe in a world with a chosen people. I do not believe in a God that has a chosen people either. I believe in my ancestors and the God of my ancestors. So when I spoke...
As we go by day, this is each day. So this is the reality on the ground. And I wanted your perspective, and I know you have some ideas as to what the situation is on the ground right now. I want to talk about that for a minute, if you will, in terms of who is there, because we have a situation that we're faced with mercenaries on the continent of Africa, wherever we are. We see these very same people operating out of Haiti now. What can you tell us about that situation there on the ground as we speak?
The situation as it exists in Haiti is one in which the West, to some extent, has utilized chaos as a tool of destabilization, which is what they're doing everywhere. Again, as their power decline, they must create chaos,
yes,
division, and that is what you are seeing in Haiti. The many interventions of those that you see and those that you don't see is mainly responsible for what exists in Haiti today, you know? And what they are trying to do is to ensure that the idea of Haiti as a state that liberated itself, as a people of African descent who changed the world, they are trying to reverse that. And they have been trying to do that for a number of years. And this is what you are seeing. We have to learn to see the value of Haiti. And I think we can't see the value of Haiti simply because of the way we see the world. Simply because we are so indoctrinated in this, what I call missionary theology, that we can't interpret the world through any other lens. And unless we can find a way of what I call deconstructing those ideas that we have been socialized in, we will never be able to see the value of hate.
Point well taken. How is what is happening generally, Haiti, connected back to Cuba, to what we saw in the Caribbean waters recently, and the bombing, if you will, or the shooting, death of fishermen and others, I think, in the Caribbean waters? How are all these connected? And to what extent do you think that this will also, this is not isolated, that the Caribbean region, we put in South America, must be on watch for what is about to unfold?
The idea is to maintain hegemony. And you know, you have to understand this, that the ancients and our ancestors, again, saw the material world in a different way. We saw the world through not the lens of profit, but the world of cooperation and sharing and, you know, and that kind of thing.
Yes.
You are dealing with essentially monsters whose only existence is profiteering. No matter what is done, whether it is violence in Iran, it is all about ensuring that profits, material gain is guaranteed. And so the entire systems that we have, political, economic systems, they are geared to ensure that a tiny minority maintain their hold on the resources of the world, whether it is water, whether it is oil, whether it is land, whatever it is. And what is happening in Haiti and Cuba and the Sahel, these are examples of saying, no, we want to change that paradigm. We want to see a world in which the resources of our countries, the resources of our communities are used to the benefit of all of us.
What then is go ahead, Brother Aka.
And so they look at this and say, listen, in the material context, how can we change this?
Yes.
We need to reorganize our economics, our political systems, our methods of organizing how our resources are shared. And
that's the point I was and that's the point I was getting to in terms of in the material context, with just a few minutes to go. How can we change this in the material context? Because we do understand the spiritual, and that point is well taken. But here we are now, where the Caribbean, Trinidad has gone its own way. Jamaica is participating or practicing preemptive obedience. Guyana is also gone its own way. Barbados is playing a hide and seek and some Nancy tricks. And across the Caribbean, at the same time, we spoke with the Garifuna people today, and they are through the spiritual way reviving and reconnecting Garifuna people across the region, so that there are many things happening at the same time. From in the material perspective, what's the responsibility and the role of Caribbean leaders right now? And I'm talking about politicians. I'm talking about Caribbean leaders wherever we are in the different sectors of the community.
I think, Sister Kabu, we have to fundamentally educate people, organize people on how we change these systems. These systems under which we live, whether they're economic systems, political systems, social, cultural systems, we have to change them. And that is what we're not talking about. We're not talking about how do we change these systems. We have a so-called democracy that is more performative than substantial. And yet we are not challenging these things. How do we organize our politics? How do we organize? We have to begin in concrete ways at community levels, at very micro levels, to attempt to change the systems. Fundamentally, for the last 500 years, we have lived under capitalism. We are not making people understand what capitalism is, what this thing is. We believe it is the only system of economic and political organization. It is not. We have many ideas in our traditions. We have other ideas, for example, socialist ideas from different thinkers.
Take a minute to talk to us about
ideologically.
Take a minute to talk to us about some of those ideas as we go out, Brother Ako.
So, Sister Cabo, recently I've been reading a lot of old books, right? I try to read like 20, 30 pages every day. And yesterday I was reading this book by Lenin, called The State and the Revolution, and in which Lenin is analyzing the state and why we must overthrow the state. The state does not represent our interests. It never had and never will. The state represents the interests of a tiny minority that he calls the bourgeois. He calls the petty bourgeois and the big bourgeois, right? But we are not speaking in this. We're speaking about all kinds of metaphysical and religious and end time, when there are matters before us of how do we organize our economics, what kind of state do we want, what kind of community do we want, how do we organize our politics? Is it around communals? Is it around these counties or whatever we do? We have to begin in the 1970s. We spoke a lot about these things. Now we do not speak about these things anymore. So we have to look at how do we change the state? What kind of state do we want? You know, and what kind of economy and political systems do we want? What kind of democracy do we want? Because what we have is not democracy. It's a facade, right? We call it democracy. So from my point of view, these are the issues we need to be focusing on. What kind of state do we want? We have lived under these states, so-called independencies, for the last 60 odd years in some cases. And what has happened? Nothing has changed. We are still exploited. We have moved from chattel slaves to wage slaves. We have no power. We elect representatives who are selected before they represent us. And so these are the ideas to me that we have to begin to look at. And whether we understand what is happening in Haiti or other places, we have to contextualize it in the fact that some people are trying to change these states, trying to change this approach to politics and economics and to create something different.
Brother Ako, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much as usual. Really enjoyed our time with you. And thank you for the challenge that we see things through our lens of Africanity, understanding who we are as ancient spiritual people. I think that is critical, even while we look at the geopolitical upheavals and tensions and so on. Always the African lens. Thank you so much, Brother Ako.
Thank you very much. Good to see you in person.
Oh, there you go. That's true. We have...
All right.
Well, we talk soon. All right.
All right. Okay.
Like I was saying just now, good to see you in person. Remember, we're streaming live. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. We're live on IG. We're live in many, many different places. IRFM Official, IRFM.net. We're streaming live. IRFM JA, and you name it. We are live. So go check us out. We're also on the 107 still. So if you're listening on Eurasia, you know, whether Ezekiel turn it off or not, you can still find us. All right, so 107's IRFM, IRFM.net, YouTube. You tell me, Peter, what are the other ones we're streaming live on? And Flow Channel 822. Remember, you can watch us there. Well, audio. DigiPlay. You can also listen to us there. And your mobile apps. So you have your mobile phone. Go to the Google Play Store. Download the app for Androids and voila. There you are. You're getting us live and in living color. So we are live in many, many different places. And my next very special guest is live and in living color. And at 3 minutes after 9 o'clock, President of JABEM. He is a senior biomedical research scientist in immunology working in the biopharmaceutical industry in the United States. We're always going to say it, right? Even though he's not, that's not why he's on this morning. But President of JABEM, Dr. Devon Taylor. How are you doing, Dr. Devon Taylor? Morning, sir.
Well, we're doing good, you know. We're doing good. We almost lose the job, you know what I mean, defending the beaches with the beach control policy. You know what I mean?
Yes, well, yes, don't it? I'm telling you, we're holding on, though. I mean, ancestral guidance and protection to both of us. It is what it is. But this, you know, it is a very serious situation, isn't it, Devon? That for umpteen years, for so long, those who stand up for rights, for equal rights and justice and human rights, that when the powers and the authorities, especially the private ones, you know, descend on you, you're lucky you're blessed to survive.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just so the Gideon go, you know, but we're used to it, you know what I mean? Because coming back, from all over these 400 or 500 years, we're seasoned in the fight. And so the decolonization of Jamaica continues. And we hope we're going to it this morning, to address whether or not this document is towards decolonization or liberation.
All right, so this document that you reference and that our listeners know, that if you were watching the budget debate on Thursday, and even if you weren't watching and you're reading some news stories, because some news have trickled out regarding the presentation of the leader of the opposition. Oh goodness, am I the one with the audio? Am I the one with the audio, Peter? Because I'm not seeing the audio. All right, the leader of the opposition and the Prime Minister spoke specifically to beach access, and the leader of the opposition putting that on the table, the Prime Minister, of course. For the first time, may I say this though, Devon, that I've been covering this for a long time, access to beach, the conversations, the debates, the marches. I've been at the forefront of a lot of them, and of all of them. And this is the first time that I'm hearing a Prime Minister make such a definitive statement regarding the Beach Control Act, Beach Management Act, if you will. So we're going to put that out there to say, all right, so where do we go from here, and what is in it? Did we miss anything? What does it mean now that he's made this commitment? I am not sure if I'm the one with the audio. But I know we do have the audio. I'll try and locate that and play that. But in the meantime, I'll allow you, Devon, just let us talk a little bit about your own response. First of all, tell us what you heard, what these two gentlemen say. We're going to find the audio, and also your own response to what we've heard so far. Jabem's response while I check for the audio.
Yeah, So the opposition leader, I think in his contribution on Tuesday, echoed the call. So where's this policy? Because this policy has been really talked about, for, decades. Since 1956 and before, Jamaican people never like Wagwan on the coastline. Kick off, run off, fishermen lose them beach, hotel expand. It's been a call, pre-independence. And the political class responded, just before 1962 and 56 and create this beach control policy. So, all these decades in between, the people are called for it, are requested, are asked, them not have no rights, them want them rights. So, the opposition says, all right, so where is the legislation that you have been promising? Because they said, legislation will be tabled on the first sitting of Parliament, right? That was last year, it was actually said it was tabled only to cabinet, which means it's just within the GLP administration, not to the larger country. So by echoing those sounds, we see now Thursday, when Dr. Andrew Holness gave his presentation, he held up a document that he said he's now tabling in Parliament, to address beach access rights across the country.
All right, hold there, Devon. I think I have that, so let me go to that.
Beach access. The leader of the opposition raised it in his presentation. Every administration has committed to creating a policy Jamaica's access to our beaches. Today I am tabling Jamaica's new beach access policy. The Beach Control Act of 1956 and its amendments in 1973 did not adequately address beach access issues and will have to be replaced, and the new policy is the first step in that direction. The policy focuses on developing a modern, inclusive definition of a beach and definition of the foreshore, backshore, and water shelf, outlining how the government will consideration for new development approval. Madam Speaker, another element of the policy is developing a framework around investments in man-made or constructed beaches. At the time of the 1956 Act, man-made beaches were not contemplated. It was, obviously man-made beaches have been around a long time, but it wasn't contemplated as an endeavor in Jamaica. I think now we have to integrate that into a new framework of managing our beaches. So the policy, Madam Speaker, affirms government's commitment to ensuring that Jamaicans have access to their natural public assets in an orderly, safe, equitable, and sustainable way. Madam Speaker, we want to once and for all end any ambiguity, dispute, or any view that Jamaicans are being dispossessed and disconnected from accessing their beaches.
All right, so that was the Prime Minister, Andrew Holness, in Parliament. The policy, he says, he announced that the long-awaited beach access and management policy, will be tabled? Has it been tabled, Devon, or will be tabled?
Yes, it
has been tabled. And in Parliament as part of the budget 2026-27 budget debate. And the policy aims to expand and improve the public access to Jamaica's beaches. And he says it will replace the outdated Beach Control Act 1956, amended 1973, which failed to adequately deal with beach issues. The framework includes a modern definition of beaches, including the foreshore, the backshore, and the water shelf, clear strategies to increase and improve public access, legislative reforms to support access rights, changes to development approvals, especially coastal projects, and a framework for investment in artificial man-made beaches. And it also emphasized orderly, safe, equitable, and sustainable use of beaches. So you've looked at that, but there's also a document that. Funny enough, I thought about this morning because I think you and myself, we actually met through the airwaves the first time I was discussing this policy with Pernell Charles. I think we met a little before that, but in terms of how we literally got together on this beach access thing, was your own critique and critical analysis of this document that Pernell Charles Jr. had submitted many, many years ago, and we were having that conversation. I actually said to Mr. Charles then that Dr. Devon Taylor is texting, and this is what, and I was reading your text of that, because you were at that time saying there's a lot missing from this document. Has anything changed as far as you're concerned?
Fundamentally, no. There's no fundamental change.
Even with this announcement?
Even with this announcement, right? And it's a bold statement I'm making, but we're going to back it up when you actually examine and deconstruct the document.
Go ahead.
Right?
Go ahead.
Because, I mean, we applaud the Prime Minister still, to recognize what Jabem have been saying, that this document needs to be repealed and replaced. And he said so, right?
Well, he said replace, not repeal.
Yeah, him say replace. And, I've seen where they're trying to amend. Now, there's a little bit of ambiguity there still, with this policy versus the Beach Control Act, what will reign supreme? Because you cannot have two documents that regulates the foreshore, only one. And the Beach Control Act still stand. But, Cabo, before I kind of dive into this thing, and it's been, a long night kind of really looking at it because we've just gotten the document. I don't think we can examine this document without looking, and putting what the Prime Minister presented in his budget presentation into context. That is very important. Why is that important? It's because 30 to 35%, right, of the Jamaican GDP is connected to coastal economy, connected to beaches. And in the Prime Minister's response, all of what the Prime Minister talked about, 90% is actually projects that are coastal in nature, include beaches, include rivers, right? Include the foreshore and include the sea. So therefore, the policy that the Prime Minister is presenting must also reflect and continue to support the hotel industry through the licensing of beaches, selling of beaches, the control of beaches by the tourism industry. And we know the tourism industry crowd out every other industry and monopolize the economy of Jamaica, where tourism interests control our politician, exclude Jamaica and exploit the workers, right? Indeed, it's a plantation tourism model. So we cannot look at the beach control policy that was present out there, beach management policy, without
and tourism interests. And
Yes.
so that how do you balance? The beach control act while you balance the budget. Let me take a quick break.
In government, what have you done about beach access in Jamaica? More and more beaches are being taken away from the public. Our people are crying out for access to the beaches of the island. You've been dragging your feet on this issue for years. Your policy is stuck in the usual multiple announcements phase. You know, this is announced and then it's announced and it's announced. It's a bit like that that project in St. Thomas there, where it's open when it's not even, no proper infrastructure. I'm sure it's going to be open a few more times. I see some public bodies have now signed with a big smile on their face to go in there and it's not even ready. We would use the law to guarantee public access while balancing legitimate tourism and private interests. No Jamaican should be barred from the foreshore. Restoring our people's connection to our national heritage should be part of building back better than before. It's very critical.
All right. Opposition Leader Mark Golding there, Dr. Devon Taylor. It's interesting because he talks about balancing the legitimate tourism interest. And this you're pointing out is the crux of the matter. So he would be faced with the very same problem because this is not a JLP problem. This is a situation that's been going on for many moons. And whether it's JLP in power or PNP in power, and we haven't really seen any change. It's getting worse, if you will. So I'm going to give you some time, Devon, to take us through, because I know you have been scouring and going through the document with a fine-tooth comb. So I'll give you some time to tell us the discrepancies, the challenges that you see, and your own perspective on how this can be played out, or if it can, any at all, in terms of the announcement that was made. So go ahead. All right, so I'm not hearing you. I think you're mute. All right. It's not us.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. No, I mean, it's funny how the opposition talk about balancing, right? Because it's the same thing that the Prime Minister is trying to do. This is, you see, there's no balancing because the whole thing is that we lost in the beginning. When them allowed the Beach Control Act of 1956 to be legislation in the country lose, right? Because them say we have no inherent right. And what I'll say here, by looking at the document and the scope that we're going to discuss this morning, are 4 areas we're going to touch on. So the biggest one of it is what is called qualified rights. Now, the documents state that, right, Jamaicans will have qualified rights to the foreshore, right? And I want to really kind of read out what the document really says about qualified right, because it's very important that we understand that.
Go ahead.
Right? It says the unhindered right of access by the public to the foreshore, the floor of the sea, and the water column above it for recreation purposes is to be provided through the amendment of the Beach Control Act. These rights will be qualified rights, as there will be obligations by both the public, where applicable, licensees, right? The right of the public, the rights of the public within a licensed area will be subject to the terms and conditions of the license and the rules governing the area. Such terms and conditions of the license and the rules governing the area. Now, the such terms and conditions are to be determined by the NRCA, that is the regulatory arm of the Beach Control Act, where the rules will be determined by the licensee in consultation with NRCA, right? What does that mean? Now, qualified rights mean rights with condition. They are not inherent rights. You will not have the right to just go on a beach as you want to go on a beach, as we were advocating for unfettered and general rights. So the Beach Control Act, which never give us none, they said they are giving us some, but it's qualified. right? It will be restricted, and these rules will be now set by the hotel, the guest house, right? The villas who have the license, which there are 366 of these licenses in existence in Jamaica since 2023. So there are more now. Those people are going to set the rules as how Jamaican use their beach. So it's a qualified rights. So it's not a right at all. And I want to put this into context because this document of qualified rights is the exact same thing that was presented in 2000 under the PJ Patterson administration, right? So since 2026 years later, we've seen an agreement between both political parties that the Jamaican people does not have inherent right to the foreshore. Job them, right? And I know every Jamaican believe that the rights to these things, right? Right to the foreshore, to the land, to rivers, to beaches is our birthright, right? By being citizens, and our forefathers fought, win the war, and take the country, and we have a Jamaica that was born independent. Our foreparents did that in their struggle for emancipation and liberation. So we do have a birthright, which should give us, right, inherent, fundamental, unfettered rights. And the political class come now and tell us, say, these rights will be qualified rights, right? Qualified rights, and the rules of how we engage the beach will be determined by now who own the beach, right? Who own the hotel, who own the license.
This is critical, and this is critical because the extent to which these licensees are already license holders and are already denying to a large extent, almost 99%, access to the beach by Jamaicans, the extent to which these are the very same license holder who will be participating in determining the qualified rights. To me, that in itself is a contradiction. It's a conundrum. I do not understand it. But you're saying this is one point. But then that is why we talk about repeal, because this is not a repeal, right? This is an amendment to the Beach Management Act. All right, so that's the first thing. Mm-hmm.
Yes, it's a continuation of how we have always been treated. And I need to say more on this, because the policy was explicit.
Yes.
The policies talk about...
sorry to interrupt. So that our listeners understand what we're saying. And you're saying more on this. We're talking about the Beach Management Act, which is a document from 1950 Owen. It's a colonial document, 56. But there's also another document that you're referencing, because subsequent to the announcement, this document has been made available, which is a document that is coming from when? Isn't this the very same document that Colonel Charles Jr. Did the consultations with? This is the very same one we were discussing in what year was
2021.
it? 2021.
21, right? It came out in 2018. But what I'm also saying is that there's a policy document that came out in the year 2000.
Which is even before that. And that 2000 document, how does it differ, if any, to the 2021 document? Or
when it comes on to rights, Cabo, it still had qualified rights.
All right.
Jamaicans will only have qualified rights. Mm-hmm. And Jamaica, listen, we now upload the document on JABEM website. You can go there and look under the tab about beach policies, and you can read it for yourself.
Can we put that up, Peter? Can we put that up on screen so we can have a read of it while we're discussing? Yes, go ahead, Devon.
All right, because in it, when them discuss about the qualified rights, what the hotel and basically the policy tells you, what the hotel will be able to determine is how many Jamaicans can access a beach at any given time. How many, the number of us, right? Or any person who have a license to the foreshore, which will be able to tell us how many of us can go there. Mm-hmm. It not stop there, so. Mm-hmm. It basically say how we dress, right? Them can determine how you dress to come on beaches, right?
Who's to determine that?
There, so it say how you behave, right? And it say how you dispose of waste. Now, those are 4 criteria, right? That them said the licensee, the who have the license, will be able to determine all of them things.
How you dress?
How you dress.
To go to the beach?
Behave, and how many of us.
We need
It's in there. Look on it on a goal 1.
I will never.
To it.
I have not read the document yet, and I will never ever say that is in there. Peter is going to put it up on screen, and I look at it. I'm joking. Can you find the document? Beach access. No, it's not the beach access and management policy. Was it? It's on JABEM.
No, man. It is the beach access and management policy. I mean, I can send it to him. I can
send it to Peter. Send it to me, and I just shoot it to Peter because you don't have Peter contacts, right?
No, I don't.
Send it to President of JABEM, Dr. Devon Taylor. We're looking at the announcement made in Parliament by the Prime Minister, Dr. Andrew Holness, last week about replacing the Beach Management or the Beach Control Act. And the document that it accompanies that announcement, if you will, Dr. Taylor has already said to us that major problems have been identified, including limited physical access points to beaches, too few quality public recreational beaches, that is long before the announcement, and fees for access to areas that should be public, loss of visual and physical access due to coastal development. These are the problems that exist. These are some of the problems that JABEM and so many others have been advocating for change on, but within the broader context of repealing and replacing the Beach Management Act. Now, we hear that it's going to be replaced. We kind of, there is a positive in the announcement. As I said before, Devon, we've never had a prime minister go that far.
Yes.
So, yes. But then there also, you have been poring over the document, looking at the announcement, going through the budget speech, and poring over the Beach Management Policy Act. Right? And finding major problems, one not least of which is the extent to which the operatives from the tourism sector will be involved in determining what access should look like, qualified access should look like. So you said there were 4 of these. So there's 1, there's a qualified access, then 2.
No, I'm saying the qualified access is based on 4 conditions.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
4 conditions about how many Jamaicans can access the beach.
Right.
How they can dress, right?
So
how they must behave, right? So these are what? They're the qualification. So have to qualify to go on a beach, right? Instead of, they just give us inherent rights, fundamental rights, right? That is where they should go.
Repeat those qualifications for us, because just so our listeners hear them again.
Right?
Yeah.
How many Jamaicans can access a beach, right? That's one of the conditions.
Yes.
NRCA, so these are rules that the developer, the guest house, the hotel, will make. And they will, of course, consult with NRCA, right? Around these. But how people dress, right? How you look when you go up on a beach, right? We know them always use these things to exclude our people. How you behave. You are now trying to codify behavior in the Beach Control Act replacement that you're going to put inside here. Behavior? What were they?
And who determines what behavior is? How you define that and who determines that? Is it a class within a class system, or a racial system, or a cultural system, or an African-centered system, or a European system? Who's going to determine what the behavior should be?
Absolutely. And so what you do see is the segregation of spaces, right? This is the classical old kind of an apartheid consciousness that you apply. So this is the same colonial logic as to how them use, instrument of rules and law to exclude people. So there now becomes an exclusivity for you to access and use Jamaican beaches because of this quote-unquote qualified rights. So that is a non-starter, an absolute non-starter, right? To really dealing with any kind of, real fundamental change. Because what this does, it does not disrupt the structure right? The colonial ordering of our society. It does not do that. You know, we know they are now going to enshrine supremacy, right, of predominantly foreign owned companies is going to make these rules, you know, in complicity with the government, right? That will dominate I people. It's going to dominate we, the Jamaican people, the black working class, right? You're going to tell you what kind of bath suit, or we can go up on beach, or we're supposed to look, I mean, or if we behave. It's a non-starter. Now, you know, I mean, it was something that kind of just hit you hard when you really kind of read it, you know, and I was hoping that they would never really have the guts to table something like this to the Jamaican people. But they did. And you mentioned something, you know, that we have to give, you know, the Prime Minister credit to actually bring this to the country, because now the real conversation can start. And I'm just hoping that all Jamaicans engage this and talk with them no want, because we don't want accessing Jamaican beach by conditions.
All right. What other, as I said before, you've been poring over the document, and this is a non-starter, this very first element of it. Is there anything else within the document that jumps out at you as being problematic?
Well, I mean, the Beach Control Act always have a provision in there where the property owner who owns property that adjoins the foreshore, right, have the right, you know, to enjoy the foreshore. Right now, they're telling that they add another thing inside here, that members of the public accessing the foreshore and the floor of the sea for recreation in front of private property must have due regard to the rights of the property owner to peacefully enjoy the use of his or her property, to peacefully enjoy. So they're now expanding that the big man who own a piece of land that join the foreshore. If you are use the beach and we down there play some ball and enjoy ourselves, and him come out and basically say, boy, them people are make too much noise down here, so you know, right? Them are going to give him the right, and the state, the devil is in the details. What is he going to do? Call the police and say, we are make too much noise out there. So there's no this kind of, you know, rights to land being now codified in terms of how people behave on the foreshore. I mean, the foreshore is supposed to be a liberative space. You know what I mean? That's the thing that we can't really deal with. Is
the Prime Minister in danger of making, in terms of replacing a colonial document, make it more colonial than it even is at the moment?
What I'm saying, Cabo, you cannot look at the document without looking at what was presented in Parliament. Over 22 coastal projects, move Black River, we go set up a tourist space there. So we create a bypass around, Hanover, around Lucy, open up massive swaths of land. Then move the road, I think about a 1.6 kilometer in. All is going to be new coastal land. The old Harbour Lucy, a big boating harbour. Freeport in a Montego Bay, move all BPOs, light industrial thing, and create the big nail of Montego Bay. You bring in a Falmouth, we relocate in the town of Falmouth, move it all out there, tourism infrastructure. You really go into Portland, tourism infrastructure. I mean, when you really look at you have to look. So in order for the Prime Minister to attract foreign investment, he must further codifies, right, into law protection of what the capitalist is going to want to invest in all these things, right? They must protect the beaches for them,
so
because this is what drive the tourism industry. It's the elephant in the room when nobody don't want to discuss, is that they're shifting the GDP of the country from 35% dependency on tourism to probably 70-80%. So this is all about creating the conditions that are right for investment. And we go talk about the next one.
But at a time also when we're facing a new world order, a new world economic order, and a World War III on our doorstep, which means that tourism is about to get a real terrible shock, in the same way we saw tourism getting a shock during COVID. So that was a health shock. This is an energy shock that is about to come that is going to impact tourism, and we're getting this at this time. So is this a Trojan horse then?
It is. I mean, them do them thing all the while, to us. We have seen them where, it's like when them say we emancipated back in the day, right? And them have the apprenticeship period where we work for, years and don't get no pay. Them always kind of colonial, architecture always, and, capitalism always create ways in which you think you have rights, but you don't have none. And that's kind of like what them are trying to do. So they say, oh, you have some qualified rights, but when you look at how the policy is structured, you don't really have none at all. You know what I mean? Because everything is based upon conditions. And those conditions, we don't have a seat at the table, It's not that, okay, the conditions to access the beach is now, the community will have a discussion there. The community, in the discussion there, it's the NRCA and the hotelier who get the license and go sit down and determine these kind of things.
Was JABEM included any at all at any time in the policy document that has come, that is now being tabled? Is JABEM included? Were you included at any stage in that?
Well, when they had a public consultation, and it was, as I think it was a Zoom event, right? We engaged it. We have sent in also, what we would have liked to see. But, we have participated, when they had all of these constitutional town hall, right? And, we've tell them what we want. It's not nothing that they don't. Your program when we're on talking about beach access, the whole of them are listening to it. Right, so they know our positions, right? And actually, it is not JABEM's positioning.
No, but
it is the people of the country that ask for this.
On behalf of the people. On behalf of the people. But usually you call the advocate groups together and you say, and this is one of the reasons why we had Minister Pernell Charles on, because he was included in that. He was involved in the leadership on this policy document, which he promised us would be anti-colonial, but it is sounding more colonial than even the Beach Management Act. Devon, because we have just about 13 minutes, I'm going to give you the microphone, if you will, to talk about other issues that are relevant to the announcement and the document itself.
Okay. A new thing that we see inside here is man-made beaches, right? Artificial beaches. Right, so what the legislation said, right, or the policy says that in relation to man-made beaches, the construction of such beaches must be authorized by the NRCA under the Beach Control Act. Additional approval may be required, including the requirement to undertake environmental impact assessment, apply the prerequisite permit on the Natural Resource Regulation 1996, coastal engineering approval, planning permission from town and country. Right, so what they're going to do, right, they're allowing man-made beach, right, artificial beach. Now, that is something that is going on in Jamaica. Not a lot of people in Jamaica know about it, right? We have a research article, in collaboration with Dr. Rachel Goff. We saw it and we thought it to deep dive and look at it. Now, what this really is, is just ripping out the rocky shoreline of the country. So Jamaicans should know that it's only about 150 miles of the coastline is really sandy and really classically like sandy beach. So most of the coastline, because we are 494 miles, is actually rocky edge. So again, because of how the tourism product is being positioned, we run out of beaches. We are run out of beaches in other country. So now them are put inside here so they can make artificial beach, blast out all of these rock faces, rip them out and create land out of water. Right? So this is what's going on. This artificial beach, it is a wickedness when you see what going on. We have some pictures. I should put them up on JABEM to really show the Jamaican people what is happening, like in close to Millionaire Row in Discovery Bay, or them just take out big chunk of the rock interface, allow the sea to come in. Now we know the barrier with that provide and the protection with that provide from high in energy beachfront.
You see, from time to time, why may you laugh after my stance on the whole climate change thing? Because I am saying that until we deal with these injustices, and these the wide berth that the private sector has to create havoc on the island, and then to disturb the whole climate of the island. That until we deal with that, we cannot begin to talk about climate change. Today is World Water Day. You know, the United Nations declared it World Water Day, March 22. And I know there are a lot of celebrations all over the world and a lot of discussions regarding water. What is interesting is that the World Economic Forum, the United Nations, the Africa Union, and every other organization you can think about have come to the same conclusion that we are in a state right now in the world where we are facing global drought, where water is becoming a very scarce commodity. People are saying commodify it and make it be, put it on the stock market and treat it like gold and so on. This is coming from some places in Europe. These are the conversations they're having, while at the same time, in Jamaica, we are either leasing, selling, or giving away our water sources, whether it is salt or it's fresh. These are the discussions that I think, as we go into 2027, the energy pandemic, which, you know, it's upon us. I know you're a scientist, you probably see it coming. The energy pandemic is coming. It's the same way like the COVID pandemic. Already airports are being locked down all across the West Asia. We have here in the United States, we're hearing that some flights are cancelled and some airports are slimming down. It is only going to get worse because this war is escalating. So we're facing an energy pandemic or plandemic, if you will. But we don't seem to be aware of it, because when you listen to that budget, the budget presentation, not just on the Prime Minister, the Minister of Finance and everybody else, no matter which side of the house they're on, you get the impression that there's nothing written inside there to absorb a shock of another lockdown of another 2 years. This time, not COVID, but energy. I know I digress, and I know we only have 8 minutes leave, but it's all connected. I'm going to give the rest of the house to you, and if I start talking, stop me.
Yeah, it connected, right? It really connected, and we have put all our eggs in the basket, and we're damaging the island. We have mashed up the whole of the country, the coastline of the country, and we have codified that into law right now to say this artificial beach can be created, and the country, the public shall have no right to access these.
That is a critical.
All right.
That's
so remember that we will lose the rocky coastline where many of us go sit down, hold with meditation, throw off a little line and fish and enjoy. And the beauty of Jamaica is also part of that coastline, but it's a functional space. And they're going to terraform it. They already start, right? There was no environmental impact assessment as required. They're saying they're going to require it right now, but it's ongoing on several parts across the island, and we shall have no rights to it. So this they will now put inside the Beach Control Act a further extension of the colonial logic in terms of how capitalists relate to environment and people, right? So this is something, is an escalation as to how they look at it, right?
They've also said that I saw just a news article with I'm not sure it is IRIA, I'm not sure which radio station or media house, that the way private beaches are being sold to private ownership, that there's something that's happening there. They're putting a stop to that, or it's not going to be so easy. What's the situation with that?
No, that's the next one I want to go into, is that the sale of public beaches.
Yes.
Right? Where they said public beaches shall not be sold unless approved by cabinet, which means that cabinet can sell them. But you know who's cabinet? Cabinet means the Prime Minister and the ministers only. It does not include the opposition, who would normally defend the people. And they're saying,
but the opposition don't normally defend the people.
Well,
why are you saying? Not sir.
Well, we have put it inside there, Cabo, right? To say that
we cannot allow you to put it in there, because the opposition was in power for 18 or nearly 19 years one at a time, when we were marching for access to the beaches, when we were saying we're losing the beaches, and the opposition did nothing. Ian Hales from Hanover, I remember, went to Parliament, raised it in Parliament, mentioned the work that IRFM was doing. Nobody not paying no mind. It depends on Hansard still. If it's in Hansard, you still can't find it. And from time to time, you have people get up and make a little statement when it seems as if it is it's somehow going to help them with whatever they might do in their constituencies, but nothing has been done. I want to go back to say again, bearing in mind everything that you have said, this and I think we can hold the Prime Minister to account, and I hope he listens. All right, so he's made this commitment in Parliament. It's the first time we're getting such a commitment. All right, but it is a Trojan horse, is what I hear you say.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a Trojan horse. Hold him to it. We need to hold him to it so he has to discard that policy statement and then to listen to we the people.
Absolutely, because the escalation right now of beach seal, it's something that, remember in the Beach Control Act, it says the foreshore and the floor of the sea is vested in the crown. All right? The man, them just slap with all of that, right? Them slap it away and say them can't sell these beaches. Them say, okay, there must be exceptional circumstances, but them still, right? But the word, listen about it's words.
They decolonize the Beach Act and privatize it.
Yes.
They decolonized it and privatized it.
What them say is that in regards, exceptional circumstances may include. It not say shall. And me I learn some law from Dr. Marcus Goff. When you say shall, it means that you have to consider them thing. When you say may, no, it's kind of loose. It's more like the overwater bungalow them. Right? When they build in Jamaica and I appropriate the sea and I take with the sea. Okay? And that is also not going to be in the Beach Control Act. Right? They're going to include overwater structures, as part of it. But the seal of beaches in Jamaica is a serious escalation that the government can now sell the beach. And I should say, in all of this, there is one commendation I have is that they have now applied, a more extensive definition of a beach to include the back shore. So before it was only the wet sand. Now they have brought the dry sandy area to be part of the beach. They could have gone a little bit further and just to make it fully international and include the near shore. Just as you go into the water, that near shore area is a very critical part of the beach. It should have been included, but I commend them for extending this thing, to the back shore, right? But they will be able to sell these beaches, and if that is not alarming to Jamaican people, right? The policy highlighted 67 public beaches. That's what I'm put inside here, okay? And the policies also clearly states that we only have 4.5 kilometer, which is 2.8 miles. When you calculate that, when you look at the 494 miles, it's 0.6% of the Jamaican coastline is public beach accessible to the public by permission, of course. So when we out there tell the world about Jamaica have less than 1%, and all of these people are saying, no, go so, beach over here, so beach over there, so. I mean, here comes the document that fully admit it, and now them want to sell some of these beaches. No, it ain't no right.
I'm going to give you a final word because let me have you address both the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition on this latest development, Devon, directly.
I mean, and I want to talk to our people still, right?
Go ahead.
Very direct, right? The opposition and the Prime Minister, right, have inherited a problem, right, that is colonial in nature, right? It still creates a discrimination and segregation of the Jamaican people as it relates to the foreshore. It's a colonial problem that don't give us any inherent right. And the Prime Minister and the opposition, if they are serious, right, about decolonization, liberation, right, and protecting the Jamaican people, they must make sure that they slap away all of this thing about qualified rights and give Jamaicans inherent rights to the foreshore. They must give us that. We must have lateral perpendicular movement. They speak to that the qualified right will allow for lateral and perpendicular, mean that you can walk along the foreshore, you can bathe, you can swim, and you can fish, but it's going to be conditional. And that is the problem that we're going to have, because they're also talking about these license that you must have to run these beaches, and these things must go away. But what I want to say to the Jamaican people, JABEM have been using the Prescription Act, the Prescription Law Rights Act of 1882. And that remains the only single legislation that allows us to protect our rights in perpetuity forever. It's the only one, because under that is the common law. And may I say to the people them, if we want to protect the foreshore, and if the government is going to move with this plan forward, we have to protect the foreshore through prescription right. So you